I spent like a day on it or whatever, but it was still, it was all kinds of little stuff like that is what I did as I was growing up. And then, yeah, and then I just always wanted to do it. And I had all kinds of stupid corporate jobs and I hated them. And eventually I got to do video games and I'm happy now. So that's good.
That is good. I'm going to ask you, Edmund, I know you have a comics background. How did you end up transitioning from comics into game design? What was the process there for you?
Yeah, I did, like, well, in the 90s, the cool kids called them zines.
Oh, okay.
Which are like little printed magazines, like independently produced. And I made zines for quite a few years, at least like maybe like 16 to 20. And then when I turned 20, I wasn't really getting anywhere with my comics, and I couldn't get them published, and I was just making enough money. I was getting kind of frustrated because I could only really distribute them around Santa Cruz, and I didn't have much of a reach, and I knew people were buying them, but I would maybe only get, I think in the 5-year period, I probably got maybe 5 actual written, like handwritten mail, stuff in the mail, like letters and stuff saying like, I like your stuff, or well, I want more, where can I get more? Mm-hmm. So I was frustrated with like the lack of response. Like, I don't know, I couldn't get better because I couldn't see what people liked and what people didn't and how they responded and whatever else. And so I decided to learn, Flash. I took like a class at like a local college and failed that, but I learned enough to make my own site. And that's actually where me and Tommy kind of met around that time, because I started doing Flash game comics type stuff. Like, I learned how to animate, really basic animation, and I started putting my comics like in flip book form, like interactive, you click the little arrow and it goes to the next page sort of thing. And I had a website, and Tommy had a website too called Tommyism. And we were both linked on the Newgrounds network, which was a big portal of mostly animations, but some games. And it was done by Tom Fulp, who later went on to make Alien Hominid and Castle Crashers. And so we were all associated through this portal, and I knew of Tommy, but I didn't actually meet him for another 8 years. And that's kind of where I kind of just started inching into it. Like, I tried to program a few times, but I really hated it. It just wasn't fulfilling to me. I couldn't get happy by doing it. I become happy when I draw, but not when I would sit down and program. And I did really basic stuff, but I couldn't get into it enough to get good at it. Mm-hmm. So I started working with other like Flash programmers and stuff, and I started doing really crude little games. And I actually started working with Tom on one of my first games. So I did a bunch of little basic Flash gamey type stuff, and then I went and got a real job, and then I got fired from that real job.
Real job.
Yeah, I was an animal control officer for like a year.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was pretty fun, except the women were horrible bitches. But yeah, that's why I got fired. Probably from saying that.
The other women control officers, or the people that you were taking the dogs from?
No,
or animals?
Yeah, I should have said that. Yeah, no,
just checking.
Just women in general.
Specifically.
Women and bitches, and I had to quit. The women that were actually above me, like my lieutenant and my training officer, were It was a fucked up situation, and they were really worried about losing their job because we were like transitioning from an SPCA owned animal control to like a county owned animal control, and the county has all these rigorous like things you have to pass, like a lot of like just basic education tests and drug tests and all this sort of stuff that I didn't have an issue with, but they were really worried about, and the stress level got really, really high, and they just kind of started attacking everybody, and everybody started getting fired. They started like ganging up against people and firing people, and it was down to 3 of us, and they like ganged up on me. But before they could fire me, I quit. But then they begged me to come back, and I came back, and they fired me.
What?
So that was that story. But it was a good job. I liked that job a lot. It was a pretty fulfilling job, and it was always a new adventure. But after I had gotten fired, I needed to do something, and we were still living like out of a room, and me and Danielle, and I decided that I probably should try to make a living off of my art. And one of the things that I did in order to make a living off of, what I actually did well was I volunteered some time at a local studio called Chronic Logic, which was an independent a video game company which made a game called Bridge Builder. And I had actually heard of it through my website that I had because people on the forums had been playing it. And that kind of like opened my eyes to this whole independent scene. Like I realized I didn't really fully understand that there were independent games. Like I saw the Flash game stuff that was happening that like Tommy and Tom were doing and stuff, and I was doing, but I didn't actually consider it. We weren't making money. Like back then you didn't make money off of this. Like you could make some money off of ads, but by 2001 there you couldn't anymore. It was just all for fun. And I did for a few years, but like I didn't ever consider myself like, it wasn't just, you didn't call yourself an independent developer, right, Tommy? Like we didn't call, you just made Flash games.
Yeah, I just made video games. I never made them for like money or anything like that. It was all to like promote the popularity of my site, which never called myself a game developer or anything like that.
Yeah, it wasn't even, it just wasn't something that
I didn't call myself a game developer until I got my first industry job. And I was super excited about that, even though I had made games in the past. It's really strange.
Yeah, it is.
Well, didn't you work on the Unreal Engine? Was that your first job, Tommy? It was.
Yeah, my first industry job, I had to port the Unreal 2X engine, which was the Xbox-specific Unreal Engine, to the Xbox 360. And I did that for this company in Amsterdam. And so like until that point, I didn't call myself a game developer at all. But yeah, that company sucks though.
Tell us how you really feel.
Not Epic, Streamline Studios. I'll say them. I don't care. they're out of business. Doesn't matter. I can say whatever I want about them.
There you go.
But yeah, I don't think it wasn't a thing to. There was an independent scene there, and like like you would talk about it now, like the scene, the independent scene. There was a gathering of PC developers who made non-Flash, because Flash was considered not game development back then. It was very like, oh, you're a script kiddie? Like, that's
exactly.
Oh, okay.
That's a joke, like you code in C or C++, or you don't code in anything. And it was a very small, group of like maybe 150 people, like at most, really, in the IGF. And the IGF was still around then, like in 2000. I think the first one I went to was 2002 or 3. And I'm introduced to this whole scene through Chronic Logic because they submit all their games and stuff. And I think Bridge Builder had won an audience award in the past or something. And they kind of just like, it just opened my eyes to this whole like large group of people who really take what they do seriously, and it's this whole new kind of art form, and it was pretty exciting. And I ended up pitching the idea for Gish to them, and that was the first real game that I had started working on. I worked on that for like about 6 to 8 months and released it, and we entered in the IGF, and that was a very, very memorable experience to be able to demo my first game to a large group of industry people. But things were so different then, completely different than now. Like now you can actually make money off your games. Like when Gish came out, it was considered a huge success, but it really barely sold anything. Like our biggest sales day for Gish was 98 copies, or maybe a little over 100 copies, and that was when we got on Penny Arcade in 2004 or 2004. And like compared to now, like, Super Meat Boy sold 140,000 copies in one day once.
Do you think the indie developers kind of become like the cool, how Geek has become really cool? I think indie developers is sort of on the rise as far as people look at the indie scene and they're like, that's where the future of development is with Kickstarter and all the rest of that. Do you think that's true, or do you think that that's maybe mislabeled?
I think it's odd, and I don't know how to talk about it because I feel like both Tommy and I, especially with the movie, have added to the illusion of what independent game development is, and I don't know how to feel about it. And I like have like every other day, it's like a different type of perception. Like I love that we did the movie. I think the movie's great. I love what I do, and I know Tommy loves what he does. But I could really do without this scene.
Hmm.
Yeah,
If it makes any sense.
Exactly.
I could give a flying fuck about it. Like, I want to make games. Period.
I think though. Some people look at, and I've talked to a lot of indie developers before, one of my favorites being Arkin Games, where you always have to have that person like the Valve of, indie gaming, where you have that game to look up to and say, hey, we could put our stuff out there and someone will actually care enough to be involved and passionate about it. And
well, no, it's totally awesome that there are so many places that support independent games, and I love that there are so many people making independent games. But I'm more talking about this confliction I have with the idea of this scene.
I see.
And the idea of just the fact that if you make independent games, it is like, what's the word? Like hip.
Yeah, yeah.
Like me and Tommy aren't fucking hip. Like, it's just not.
You refuse to be hip.
Like, that's what it is. This is me being angry because I'm not cool. I never wanted to be cool. Don't try to make me be cool, because I'm not. Get the fuck away from me. Don't label me like this. I'm not fucking cool. I'm a fucking nerd. I make video games. Leave me alone. I don't like you. Like, I'm not a part of any of this. Like, but in a lot of ways, the movie has kind of given us an image, and in a lot of ways we represent this scene of people, and a lot of people can relate to what we're going through, and that's all great and everything, but I just have this major conflict in this. Like, I don't like that aspect of it. I'm having major conflictions with popularity and perceived fame, and not liking the fact that people know us for what we've said in a movie. I want to be known for what I've made in a game. Like, that's why I make games, and that's why I'm not like a talk show host. I don't know, whatever the fuck those people do. An actor.
Right.
I'm the opposite.
You're not representing a man who does make video games. You want to actually make them.
Yeah, just leave me alone and let me just speak through the game. That you can. That's it.
Okay.
It's as much interaction as I want to have with the human race as inadvertently through a video game. I'm done.
Okay. Let's move to how you met Tommy and ended up basically forming Team Meat and going to Super Meat Boy. How did that happen? Tommy, tell me about that.
So like Ed mentioned, we knew about each other in the 2000s, and then I had a game that was in the IGF the same year. What game did you have? That it was Tracknet, wasn't it?
Yeah, Tracknet. I wasn't even there until the very end.
You weren't there until the awards, and I was losing my fucking mind at the awards. I'm a diabetic, so I had a bunch of jelly beans because my sugar was constantly dropping.
Okay.
That was the first time. Like, we had known about each other in 2000, but when 2008 rolled around, that's when we both had something in the IGF. And when my game got nominated for something in the IGF, I looked back through past winners and I saw the Gish won in 2005, and I did this with every game. I looked at the last winners and I saw who made them, and I saw that Edmund made Gish. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. So I looked him up on Instant Messenger, because I had his Instant Messenger name from a long time ago, and I messaged him and we started talking, and we decided that we would meet up at GDC at the IGF that year. Yeah, we get there, we meet each other, it's all fine, and we decide, hey, let's see how we work together. Let's do a game together. So we ended up making a game called Gray Matter. We made it in Flash, and we found that we worked really, really well together, and we have similar personalities, and we have like identical work ethic. So it was a natural fit. Around that time, Gish 2 was going to be an XBLA game, and Cryptic C needed another programmer just to help with the workload, because making a console game is awful. And so I was going to be the person that basically But like my first industry job, I was going to be the person that ported the engine and made sure it ran on Xbox and did all that stuff.